Fractions are just another way to write a division problem. So any fraction can be written as a decimal using division. The way we do this is we take our fraction, 1/4 really means 1 divided by 4. So what we can do is we can take this problem and set it up like a division problem. Once we have it set up this way, all we need to do is divide. 1 cannot be divided by 4, so I'm going to put a decimal point and add a 0. And then I'm going to add a decimal up here on the top. I know that 10 can be divided by 4 2 times. So I'm going to multiply 4 times 2, and I get 8. I do my subtraction, and I get 2. Now, since I don't have a remainder of 0, I have to keep dividing. So I'm going to add a 0 here, and I'm going to bring it down, and now I have 20. 20 can be divided by 4 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And this time when I subtract, I do get a remainder of 0. This is what we call a terminating decimal. We say that 1/4 equals 0.25, or 25 hundredths. A terminating decimal is a decimal whose digits end. Okay? And they end because I was able to get a remainder of 0. Now sometimes they won't terminate, they won't end, and I'll show you what to do with that in just a second. There are some other kinds of decimals you need to know, and these are called repeating decimals. Repeating decimals are decimals whose digits repeat. Sometimes, like in this case, there's one digit that repeats over and over and over again. And sometimes there are groups of decimals. Okay? It doesn't matter whether it's a single digit or multiple digits that repeat, there just has to be a pattern. And when you have a repeating decimal, instead of dividing on and on forever, once you recognize your pattern, you can write your answer in what we call bar notation. Bar notation uses a bar to indicate which digits repeat. Now, the important thing to look at when you're trying to write your bar notation is figuring out exactly which digits repeat. When I look at this decimal, there's only one digit that repeats over and over again. So the way I would write this in bar notation is I would take that one digit that happens over and over again and place a bar on top of it. When I look at this decimal, I can see that it's the 3/2 that repeats over and over again. So when I write this decimal, my whole number is a 12, and then the two decimals that repeat over and over again are 3/2. So I write them one time, and I put a bar over them. So whatever decimals repeat, you write them, and you put a bar over them. Let me show you how this works when we're doing division problems. We're going to divide these two problems. One of them terminates, and one of them repeats. So remember, the way you decide, or the way you change a fraction to a decimal is with division. So it's 2 divided by 5. So I'm going to add my decimal point, add my 0. Okay. 2 can't be divided by 5, that's why I added my decimal, but 20 can be divided by 5. 20 can be divided by 5 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. When I subtract, I get a remainder of 0. So this is a terminating decimal. We say that 2/5 is equal to 4/10. And because I got that remainder of 0, this terminates. Now look at this one over here. We're going to have 3 divided by 11. Well, we know that 3 cannot be divided by 11, so I'll add my decimal point and my 0. And 11 goes into 30 2 times. So now let's multiply. 11 times 2 is 22. And I subtract. 30 minus 22 is 8. So I'm going to add another 0 and bring that down. And I want to say, okay, how many times can 80 be divided by 11? Well, 80 divided by 11 is 7. 11 times 7 is 77. I subtract, and I get 3. Still not a remainder of 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another 0 and bring it down. So I have 30 divided by 11. And you know what? This is looking a little bit familiar to me because up here I had 30 divided by 11. Well, let's see what happens. 30 can be divided by 11 2 times. 2 times 11 is 22. And then I'm going to subtract. So 30 minus 22 is 8. And then I bring down another 0. And I have 80. Okay, now this is really familiar because 80 can be divided by 11 7 times. And I see that if I keep going, this is just going to keep happening over and over. It's going to be 2 7, 2 7, 2 7. So this is an example of a repeating decimal. So what I do is I take my 3/11ths. I'm going to look up here, see exactly what digits repeat, and the repeating decimals are the digits are the 2 and the 7, so I'm just going to write them one time with a bar over them. And that's how you turn a fraction into a decimal, and the difference between terminating and repeating decimals.